You might be thinking, why is something like implicit bias vital to me as a healthcare provider? I am not prejudiced in my care delivery. I wouldn't choose who receives a certain level of care based on my opinion. While that may be true, you may not realize that we constantly compare objects, situations, and even people. Whether we understand it or not, these are biases, and they do filter into our work as healthcare providers. Merriam-Webster describes the word bias as taking an attitude toward something. It is often used in the context of being in favor of, or when comparing two things. The National Institute of Health, NIH, defines implicit bias as a form of bias that occurs automatically and unintentionally, that nevertheless affects judgments, decisions, and behaviors. Your next thought might be, okay, so I naturally have biases. Yes, we all do, but what makes them implicit? Implicit means being understood from something that is unexpressed. An example might be, not prescribing adequate pain relief medication to a patient of color, due to the provider's assumption that people of color have drug addiction problems. When biases are implicit or unconscious, they may not be entirely recognizable to the person who holds them. In other words, the bias may be present, however, it is subconscious. As we explore bias in this course, you will see that implicit bias represents itself in ways that are involuntary, and not always apparent to the person that holds it. Much of life is navigated by impressions and feelings, which are sometimes good. As you move through this course, you will also recognize the impact of implicit bias on safety and well-being. Bias can influence conversations, vocation, relationships, actions, and decisions. As healthcare professionals, bias must be recognized so that it can be neutralized or, perhaps even more importantly, so that stereotypes and associated negative impacts are removed altogether. By the end of this course, learners will appreciate awareness and identification of implicit bias, evaluate its historical significance, and understand interventions to mitigate current bias.